Hello, everybody. My name is Katie.
My name is Haley.
And my name is Covey.
And welcome to the
Couch Potato Lab,
where we bring the science to you in your own homes. We have another wonderful episode planned for you here today, so make sure you download that lab manual at bit.ly/couchpotatolab so you can follow along with our scientists. If you have any questions at all, you can text us at 306-570-1013. Or if you prefer social media, then you can find us at the handle @EyesYouth on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and even TikTok. And if you're using Twitter, make sure you use that hashtag #CouchPotatoLab so that we can answer any comments, suggestions, or questions that you have for us. So, before we get into this amazing episode we have planned, let's first meet these wonderful scientists we have as well. So, who do I have to my left?
Hi, I am Haley. My pronouns are she and her. And my fun fact for the day is that this morning I took my dog to daycare. And it was, Colby, I know you're laughing at me, but I took him to daycare and it was his first time back in a while. And I was a little nervous that he'd be scared, but the second we pulled up and he recognized where we were, he got very excited. So I'm very happy to leave him in those amazing hands of the daycare workers.
What breed is your dog?
My dog is a Bichon Shih Tzu, so tiny, tiny little yapper.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, shout out to Haley's dog for going to daycare. That's amazing. Okay, everybody, my name is Katie. My pronouns are she, her, and my fun fact for today is that I am going on a very long vacation really soon, and I am so excited I can barely sit anymore. I want to get going. I'm very excited for my long vacation.
Where are you going?
That's a secret, but it's going to be a very hot location. It's a good one. Mm-hmm. You'll see later, Kobe.
Okay.
And who do I have to my right?
Well, like Katie said, my name is Covey. My pronouns are he, him. And a fun fact about me is that because yesterday we were talking about half birthdays with it was Mackenzie's half birthday yesterday, and Katie's birthday is actually also coming up, and I've designed a game called the Balloon Popping Marathon, and she's going to be the star of that game, and it's going to be a great time because we know how much Katie loves balloons. You know, we're gonna pop balloons, we're gonna throw some darts, we're gonna do cool poppin' stuff, and it's gonna be a great time.
Wow, I did not know that was happening, but apparently
all for you.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I'm very excited for that game.
All right, to start off this live stream, we would like to recognize that we are on Treaty 4 territory, which is the traditional home of the Nehewak, Nakaway, Dakota, and Lakota peoples, and the traditional homeland of the Métis Mischief Nation. We're so grateful to be able to share this land with these peoples and to recognize the diversity from our viewers that may be coming from unceded territory or different numbered treaties. So thank you for taking the time to recognize this with us and joining us here today at the Couch Potato Lab. Thank you so much.
Katie.
Oh, Katie, what are you wearing? Hey.
I'm getting ready for my big trip. You know, I know that I said I wasn't going to tell you where I'm going, but it's too much of a fire in me, you know. I'm just too excited, and I really want to let you guys know something.
Okay, well, where are you going, Katie? Just tell us already.
Okay, I have been promoted by headquarters.
What?
And I am going to be working on a deserted island.
Are you going to be the boss of eyes in a deserted island?
Yeah, exactly. They said that, you know, I'll be able to communicate with everybody, and they said it's going to be a wonderful time. So I'm just getting ready. I'm catching my plane after the show today. But if we're going to keep a little secret, I do need to tell you guys something. I'm a little nervous about going to a deserted island. I've never been to a deserted island. I don't really know how it works. I mean, the thing I'm most worried about is my curly hair. Like, I
That's
have,
what you're worried about?
I have a very strict curly hair routine where I use the cleanest water possible, and it has to be perfect in order to get these wonderful curls. And so I'm a little worried because I know that the water is going to be filthy, and so I kind of brought you guys on here today to ask if you have any tips about how we can clean the water so that I can maintain my curls.
Well, yeah, of course we can help you with that.
Okay, well, let's take a look then. Haley, you look like you have some fun stuff going on your desk.
I do have some fun things going on here. I have the supplies to make my very own water filter. And you can take it with you when you go to your stranded island there. Your deserted island. So, we want to start with a strainer and a coffee filter here. And you're just going to put one inside the other just like this. Just like that, so it's all together. Now I'm going to get mine ready right here. We're going to set it on there. And what you're going to do is take some gravel or some rocks, and you're going to put it into the coffee filter. Now this works just like it would in an ocean or something like that, where there's sand on the bottom, and it helps to filter out unnecessary materials from the water. So I'm going to go ahead and pour this gravel into my coffee filter. Ooh, got lots of gravel.
So, Haley, I have a question. Does it matter if the gravel is kind of bigger rocks like that, or if I use smaller, like kind of sand pebbles? Does that matter?
It does not matter. So if you went to your backyard and you got some sand, that works perfect. If you went to your local park and got some rocks, that is a-okay too. Because all that really matters is something I'm going to talk about here is the water that we're using. So we are using some super dirty water. There's particles floating around in there. Maybe I can shake it up and make sure the lid's on there. That would have been scary. And this is very dirty water. There's particles floating around. And what we want to do is put something called alum spice inside of it. So alum spice will cause a process called flocculation. And flocculation we'll talk a little bit about later. But just to give you a sneak peek, it's going to make all these floating particles in here stick together. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up and pour. I'm putting about 1 to 2 tablespoons of alum salt into my very dirty water. And this needs to sit for about 5 minutes. But first I got to shake it up. So Covey and Katie, do you want to help me shake it up?
How? Do I send you magical powers?
Basically, that's all I'm asking for. Encouragement.
All right.
Shake it up, shake it off, shake it up like Taylor Swift.
Covey's been really practicing his singing for the show, so that looks great, Haley. So we're just going to shake it up, and then we just let it sit for a bit, hey?
That is exactly right. We're going to let it sit here, and we'll see what happens at the end of the show.
Nice.
Okay, that sounds cool. I don't really know what Haley's talking about, putting salt in this dirty water. That's not going to do anything. Covey, do you have something that's better?
Oh, yes, I do. So I'm going to use a different type of filter. I'm going to use a slow sand filtration. And it's going to take a very, very long time because it's slow. And the primary ingredient that we're going to use is sand. And why sand? It's because sand on top of the sand has a biologically active layer called the schmutzdecke. And what this has is like fungi and bacteria and living little organisms on top of there. And the thing is, dirty water has many pathogens. And what pathogens are bacteria that make us very, very sick. And we don't want those pathogens in our water. So this schmutzdecke, all those bacteria and organisms on the schmutzdecke will eat up those bad pathogens away so that our water is free from the pathogens. But even though we are filtering out this water, make sure that you are not drinking this because it's not entirely clean, and we can't really test if it's entirely clean, and it's actually missing a step that we're going to talk about in the water treatment system. So that's why we are not allowed to drink the water, but we can see some cool results later on. So this is the main activity of the lab manual, so make sure you grab your supplies. The first thing that you'll need is a plastic bottle right here. The first thing you're going to do is cut the bottom part of the bottle, which I will quickly finish.
Now, Covey, does it matter what size the bottle is? Is it better to have a bigger size bottle, or does that matter?
No. So if you would like to use a smaller, like 250 milliliter bottle, or 500, 750, it's really up to you, or whatever you can find at home. We just have some 2-liter bottles at the studio, so we're just going to use that. All right, the next thing we're going to need is we're going to make a hole in our lid. So this, you might need to use either like scissors or X-Acto knife, so make sure you have your parents around to help you out to make that hole. And this hole is needs to be big enough so that you can fit a straw through it. And voila, ba-bam, like this. Super, super easy.
Oh, yeah, the straw to drink the water, right?
No, Katie, remember, we're not allowed to drink this water
Oh,
because
right.
we don't know if the pathogens actually are still alive, or if the schmutzdecke bacteria ate all the pathogens yet. All right, so don't drink the water, but it's going to be kind of like crystal clear, I would say. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to put that bottle cap right back in. Oh, maybe I'll do the bendy part in. Cool. Okay, screw back your cap. The next thing you're going to do is use rocks or gravel. So like pretty much what Haley did before. We're going to use any rocks. It needs to be bigger than your sand, and most rocks are bigger than your sand, so which is good. So the purpose of these gravels and the rocks is to pretty much hold up the sand layer. So what we really want is this good separation between the rocks and the sand. So I put about maybe 2 inches of rocks. I'm at the bottom. The next thing we're going to add is about 2 inches of sand. Well, bam. So I'm gonna put about maybe 3 or 4 scoops, or like maybe 3 to 4 cups of sand. Maybe too much down. Okay, cool. So now we have 2 distinct layers. One is the sand, and one is the rocks.
Now that reminds me of the beach. That looks super cool. So
Yeah.
you're telling me something like a beach would be able to filter out water?
Yeah, if you put in the right components. But the thing is, beach sand, sometimes you don't know, like, we're stepping on it all the time. So we're maybe introducing some more pathogens that we don't want to introduce to the water that we're going to use later. So yeah, yes and no. Okay, next thing is maybe have a container, so that's where you can have the clean water go through. I'm going to use a beaker. The straw's a little bit too long, so I'm going to just cut it. And the next thing I'm going to add is a little extra spicy thing. Activated carbon. So this is used usually for like fish tank filters, and what this activated carbon does is it actually attracts the bad ions or bad chemicals in the dirty water, and attracts them, clumps them up together, kind of like what Haley's filtration does when we're making flocks and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna add something extra right through there. Wow, love that. So good. So now I have 3 layers. I got the rocks, the sand, and the sand's schmutzdecke, and activated carbon. Last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in some dirty water. If I stir it up, you can see how dirty
Oh my
it
goodness,
is.
Colby, that water is super gross.
I know. This is really, if Katie had to clean her hair with this, it would be extra puffy, right?
Oh, let me tell you, it would not look as good as it does right now.
Okay. All right, I'm going to pour some water into my filter.
Okay,
And-
well, it looks good, Covey, but I'm not seeing any clean water in there yet.
All right, because this is called the slow sand filtration, it's going to take a while for it to filter out all the bad water into nice clean water. All right, so we're gonna have to wait a little while, and then before you know it, we're gonna get some crystal clear water.
Okay, well, I don't know about you guys, but I'm sitting here waiting for my clean water, catching a flight in 2 hours, and Haley and Kobe say I have to wait for the clean water. But I guess if we're waiting, we can wait together. Make sure you are texting us in your questions at 306-570-1013. And you can also reach us on social media with the handle at EyesYouth on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. And make sure if you are using Twitter to use that hashtag CouchPotatoLab to get a hold of us. And let me know what you think about Haley and Kobe's creation so far, because so far I'm a little skeptical if this clean water thing is going to work. My hair is a little worried as well. So we'll see how everything goes. But Haley, I see that you're reading a book over there, and that kind of got me thinking. We're talking about clean water, and I'm wondering, why do we even need clean water? What does dirty water do? That bad of damage? Like, what is wrong with dirty water? What can it do to us?
Oh my goodness, Katie. Well, let me tell you. Drinking dirty water is probably about the worst thing that you could do to your body, and it can even cause death. But we didn't know that until somebody named John Snow discovered this. So I have a book here that is going to tell you all about our good friend John Snow and the discovery of cholera.
So it is time for Story Time with Haley. Story Time with Haley!
Thank you, Kobe, for that amazing song. Alrighty, I'm going to open up to our first page, and let us get ready. Once upon a time, in London, England, the villagers were dying mysteriously. Nobody knew why. London was beginning to become very overpopulated, and more people began to die. Many scientists worked to discover that people were dying from something called cholera.
Is it in the air?
Nope, it wasn't, and John thought otherwise.
It can't be in the air. It must be something else.
So, John would sit outside in the village and watch the villagers dump their poo near the water that they drank. And it was after watching this happen many times that Snow began to suspect that this may be an issue.
Oh man, it was Taco Tuesday, feeling extra spicy. Good thing I'm getting rid of this waste.
Madame, why are you dumping your poo near our drinking well?
This is what we always do. Get off my back.
What?
You don't even go here.
It was through this that John came to the conclusion that cholera was due to fecal matter or poop particles in drinking water. When people would drink the dirty water, it would make them very sick. John traveled everywhere to try and spread awareness for cholera, but nobody believed him.
But nobody believed me.
He finally convinced the government to shut down a water pump near an outbreak of cholera, and this pump was on Broad Street.
Madame, this pump is closed.
I thought I told you to get out of here.
And even though John successfully put out the breakout of cholera at the Broad Street pump, people still didn't believe him. So he went and made this map that you will see on screen.
I made this map, and as you can see, these little dots indicate the number of outbreaks in London, England in relation to the water pumps. And there are a lot more outbreaks near the water pumps than out of the water pumps.
And it also seems that the pumps from the downstream river are making people sick with cholera. And this is because upstream is where people dump their waste. This means that if you get your drinking water before the place where people dump their waste, you would not get sick. But people would get sick from water if they got their waste from downstream, as the fecal matter would flow with the water, and people who got their waste downstream even had a 14 times more death rate than people who got their waste upstream. And they still didn't believe John.
Oh my gosh, they still won't believe me.
You keep going, Glen Coco. You go, Glen Coco.
So even though John died prematurely, which means very young, scientists eventually began to understand that John was actually correct. Cholera is a bacteria that makes people sick when you drink dirty water. So that is the story of how cholera is, and drinking dirty water actually makes people sick. Did you know that, Katie?
No, I didn't know that, but I really enjoyed that narrative, especially the villagers. They just played that part perfectly, like perfect acting skills. So thank you for sharing that, Haley. That was a really great story.
I think there's one person we really need to thank, though. Hey?
I know who you're talking about.
You know? All
Let's
right.
say it on 3, 2,
1.
Thank you, Jon Snow.
Yes, most definitely. Thank you, Jon Snow, for discovering cholera and for helping us, because now I realize that, yes, dirty water most definitely is a problem. Okay, that's cool. So now I know that there's some weird little pathogen guys floating in the water that are not going to make our lives a whole lot easier. So I'm just confused, like, are there different kinds, or are they all one thing? Like Haley said that cholera is a bacteria, but are there other things? Colby, do you know?
Yes, there are different types of pathogens, and one of them is a bacteria pathogen, and there are viruses. So those are two different pathogens, and they are different. So bacteria are single-celled organisms. They can reproduce on their own, and they're pretty big. But compared to viruses, on the other hand, they are a lot smaller. And what they have is a protein coat and viral genetics or genes or DNA or RNA, but they are not alive. So bacteria are alive and viruses are not. And how viruses reproduce is by injecting their DNA or RNA into other bacteria or different cells, and those hijacked bacterial cells or other cells may produce more cells with more viral DNA and RNA. And pretty much we're reproducing the genetic code of the viruses that can make bacteria sick, or maybe bacteria become pathogenic or make our cells sick as well. So that's the main difference between viruses and bacteria.
Okay, that makes sense. So do we have any sort of examples of what are some things in our water? Because I'm still a little bit ambiguous here. Haley, do you know an example of a bacteria?
I do have an example of bacteria, and you may all have heard of it at home, and it is called E. coli. And you will see on screen a picture of E. coli.
Oh, it's cute.
It is very cute. So E. coli mainly comes from undercooked meat or raw milk products or fecal contamination of vegetables. And in Canada, we had an outbreak of E. coli just a little over a year ago, where we were getting romaine lettuce, but people were getting E. coli from it. Now, that was from fecal matter from different animals that would make its way onto our romaine lettuce. And so you may have remembered, you can't get romaine lettuce anywhere. You can't go to Subway and get romaine lettuce on your sub. But that is all due to E. coli. So it's very important that we don't get that dangerous bacteria on our food and into our bodies.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks, Haley. So that's a bacteria. What about a virus, Covey?
Yes. A virus, on the other hand, would be an example like the Norwalk virus. And here's a little graphic of what this virus would look like. So another name for this virus is the stomach flu, or the winter vomiting disease. And this is because it caused a lot of vomiting and diarrheal illnesses during the winter time. And the thing is, Norwalk viruses only infect humans. Aren't we lucky? It only affects humans, and it causes like food poisoning and us like vomiting or stomach flu and stuff like that. So that's why we have to make sure that we are washing all our foods that we eat to make sure that they're not contaminated with these viruses, or make sure that we are using or drinking clean water as well, because they can travel through water.
Ah, that is very interesting, Covey. Well, when you guys were talking about all these different microbes and stuff found in the water, I went out and I collected some water and I put them on agar plates. So, agar plates are materials that different microbes are able to grow on. So, these little plates have special ingredients in them that are needed for bacteria to grow. So let's take a look at some of the different samples that I came up with. So the first one is tap water, tap H2O. And this is what I found in the tap. So really not too much growth. Whenever you see any sort of like little bump, that is when bacteria or a virus is growing. So here, there is no, the very, very little bumps on this agar plate. So tap H2O is clean, which hopefully you would kind of expect since we're using it to clean our hands. Now, this is hose H2O, and obviously you can see that this one is a lot dirtier.
Oh
My dog drinks out of the hose.
Well, I don't know what to tell you, Haley. Good thing he's at daycare right now. So this hose H2O is a lot dirtier. They have much bigger clumps, some different colors. So obviously that is quite a bit dirtier than the tap H2O. Next up, we have puddle water. Now this one is very interesting because you can see that the specks are a lot dirtier, and I'm thinking that's because puddles are dirtier, but I don't really know for sure. There's still some kind of weird gross stuff going on here. So you can play with worms in puddles, but don't eat them. Don't eat worms anyway. I don't know why I said that. All right, our next agar plate is toilet water. Ooh. Now this one I found interesting at first because this looks very sparkly clean to me, and I was like, well, toilet water is sparkly clean. Well, if it's clean toilet water, it should be pretty sparkly clean. There shouldn't be anything in it. So that is pretty nice water right there.
We shouldn't drink it though.
But don't drink it. Yeah,
no,
exactly.
No.
All right, and now this one is fountain water.
Oh my.
Oh, like a water fountain.
I'm hoping that's not a water fountain. I think this is like an outside fountain because there is a lot of growth on there. And if I was drinking that kind of water from the fountain, I'm going to think twice about doing that. Maybe I would buy some bottled water, get it from my tap. But there is quite a bit of growth on that one as well.
Well, does that say pretty fountain?
It does say pretty fountain.
So does she mean maybe like a fountain in a park that might be spraying water out and you throw your pennies in there?
I think so. Yeah,
sense.
exactly. All right, we have one more to look at, and this water is from Green Lake, so it's lake water. And now you can see how that is also quite full of different microbes and stuff, and so that is to be expected. Of course, there's going to be a lot of microorganisms and stuff in that water. So these are all very interesting, and it got me thinking that not all microbes are bad. And I don't know if Covey and Haley knew this, but we often think of germs and pathogens as bad, and a lot of bacteria are also good. Actually, we need good bacteria in order to survive. And a lot of these good bacteria live in different ecosystems, including the water. So I thought we could play a little game because it is time for our Science Showdown. All right, so our Science Showdown, I'm going to take off my gloves.
Nice.
And I am going to grab some of these Pond Man cards here.
Ooh.
Now, how this works, Haley and Covey, is I am going to read out a statement. I'm going to read out two choices for this statement. The first person to buzz in will get to answer the first, and then the second person will get the other answer. And we're going to see who will get more points. And this is all about good bacteria in water. Does that sound good?
Mm-hmm. So in other words, this game is like Haley and I are two different water ecosystems, and we want to get as many bacteria into our water ecosystems because water ecosystems need these organisms to be functional and that other fish can eat them, and they have a very important role in these water ecosystems to make sure that everything like our food cycles and are going well. Correct, Haley?
Yeah, correct.
We gotta catch them all. Yeah. Okay, nice.
That's enough. That's why I'm the host and not Covey. Just kidding. Okay.
Shots fired.
So the first question, Volvox.
Okay.
What sort of thing is it? Is it A, a bacteria, or B, green algae? Covey.
I think it's green algae.
Okay. Haley, do you agree or disagree?
I think I'll have to disagree with that.
Okay. Covey's correct.
Woo!
It is green algae. Congrats,
All right,
Covey.
I'm a catch a box. Nice.
All right. Next question. That's 1 point for Covey. 0 points for Haley. Sorry,
Oh
Haley.
no.
Gotta catch up here. Let's do a true or false. True or false? The tardigrade is impossible to kill.
Is impossible?
Is impossible to kill.
Oh, I'm going to guess true.
Okay. Covey.
False.
Haley's right.
Ah, no.
It is true. And this is such a cute little picture. So there you go, Haley. You go.
Thank you.
Oh, right. Oh, yes. Because we talked about tardigrades before, and right behind Haley is a tardigrade.
Right behind me?
Yeah, right there, the white one.
Oh, yes. Are they called water bears?
Water bears.
That's
correct.
what it
They
is.
are water
Yes. So
bears.
these are the little water bears.
Yeah,
They're
can-
the cutest little things.
and they can survive like in extreme environments, like the vacuum of space, or like in tornadoes or
Hence making it
volcanoes.
impossible to kill.
Yeah.
Yes.
Makes sense.
All right, question number 3. Amoeba, is it more circular shaped or star shaped? Haley.
Well, if anyone has watched the Amoeba Sisters on YouTube, I believe they are star-shaped.
Okay. Covey.
I think they're star shaped as well.
Well, Covey, you did get the right answer, but Haley answered first. So Haley gets the card.
Woo!
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, we are on to question number 4. Let's do another true or false. I like
Okay.
this one. Cyanobacteria is the greatest photosynthesizer in Canada.
What?
Covey.
True.
Okay.
I'll go false, because that's really... I don't know. I really don't know it.
Haley's correct because I tricked you. Cyanobacteria is the greatest photosynthesizer in the world, not only Canada.
That's like a technicality. Okay, Katie.
This is why we pay attention to details, people. We're scientists. There you go,
Oh my
Haley.
goodness, thank you.
Okay, so we are at question number 5. Now, I
Cody, you
learned
gotta get this.
I need more than just this full box.
I learned a very fun trick yesterday from Mackenzie because me and I played a fun game yesterday about pulleys. And she had the last question worth 10,000 points. So I think we should do that too. So this last card is worth 10,000 points, and whoever gets this will
Catch them all.
catch them all.
So I get all those Pondemon cards.
Yes,
Oh,
exactly.
yes,
If
I
you
could
get
win,
it right.
If I would.
All right. The question is, Chlamydomonas, does it have flagella? Does it have an exoskeleton? Or does it have both? There's 3 options.
Katie, what are you gonna do this to us?
I'll read it again. Does Chlamydomonas have flagella, an exoskeleton, or both? Covey.
I think maybe it has just the flagella that
Okay.
allows them to move around.
And I'll go with an exoskeleton.
Covey's right!
Yes.
It only has a flagella. Haley, I'm sorry to do this, but hand over your cards.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, my water
My
ecosystem.
pond is going to just become a puddle.
There you go,
I
Covey.
caught them all. Woo!
You caught them all. That is fantastic. Thank you for
Wow.
playing that Science Showdown with us. And we are approaching the middle of our show, so I did want to remind everybody that if you do have any questions for us, comments, suggestions, if you want to congratulate Covey for winning, then go ahead and text us at 306-570-1013. You can also reach us on social media at Eyes Youth on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok. And if you are using Twitter, make sure you use that hashtag CouchPotatoLab to get a hold of us. Okay, so we've been learning all about, different microbes in the water and good ones and bad ones and Jon Snow and cholera and those amazing actors. But now I'm just a little bit curious how we are going to be drinking that water. Like, how does that clean water get to us? And what are the different stages of this filtration? Because, of course, I'm going to have to know this on my deserted island when I need to clean my hair. So I think, Haley, you know the first step.
I do. There are a few steps, and you'll see on the screen right now that there are lots of different things that need to be happening. And the first one is coagulation and flocculation. So this is often the first step in water treatment, and coagulation is the process of liquid turning into a solid or semi-solid state, and flocculation is a mixing technique that assists in the setting of particles. Now, that's a lot of big words, but I want you to remember back to the very beginning of the show when we put that alum salt into our water. Now, I used a word called flock, and that's just a short word for flocculation. Flocculation is basically where all the particles come together and they stick together so that they can be trapped by what is going to be our gravel. So that is that process. So we want to have that in the water treatment center so that all of those big particles floating through our water, because sometimes people flush some funny things down the toilet, they want to all become one big clump.
Okay, that's neat. That makes sense to me. So we're catching these clumps, but now what? I'm gonna drink the clump separately, or what? What's going on next, Covey?
All right, the next step, you're not going to drink it. So the next step is sedimentation and filtration. So if you take a look at the screen again, we're going to see that water treatment graphic again, like what Haley was talking about. As you can see, there is a sedimentation basin, and what happens during sedimentation is that the flock settles down to the bottom of the water supply because it's so heavy, right? Everything just clumps up together, so it's natural that it falls all the way down to the bottom. The next step, as you can see, right after the sedimentation basin, is the filtration. And as you can see, wow, it's like the sand filter that I was making before. So once the flock has settled to the bottom of the water supply, the clear water on the top will pass through the filters of varying compositions, such as the sand, the gravel, and then the charcoal or carbon, like exactly what I made, and the pore sizes in order to remove the dissolved particles, such as dust and the parasites and the bacteria and viruses and all of that. So those are the next two steps of the water filtration system. And wow, we made it right here. But there is one last step. And Katie, do you know what that last step is by chance?
Oh, you bet I do, because I know that you two were trying to trick me and say that there are only 2 steps, but there's not, because I know that there's definitely a whole bunch of pathogens in that water that sometimes look invisible that can still make us sick. So we need the third and final stage, which is disinfection. So this is where we usually add some sort of chemical like chlorine to the water, and that's going to kill off these parasites like the bacteria and the viruses. At the same time, when this goes through our drains up so that we can drink it and we can clean in it, it's also going to be killing those parasites as well and making sure that they don't travel up so that they can get us sick. So that's the third and final step for that. So now, in a past life, before I started to work at Eyes, I actually became a professional plumber, and I would like to now show you all a little bit about our plumbing system. So I'm just going to go off and look at this board right here. Okay, so here I drew a wonderful little diagram of our plumbing system. Okay, so there's kind of lots of parts to this. This part we all know, this is our sink, but let's go through this bottom part, because I know, for example, that sometimes my dad has to go down there if there's a problem, and I didn't really understand it until I went to plumbing school. So I am going to teach you plumbing in 101. Of course, make sure you're not actually going to do this, but we're going to learn a little bit about it now, so that next time your parent or guardian has to go fix the pipes, you know exactly what's going on. Okay, so right here we have our sink drain. So our water is going to come, it's going to drain, and then it's going to go in this area right here. We have this area that's going to be called our pivot rod. And that's going to control the flow of water down through the rest of the pipes. So if there was ever a sort of blockage, or if there was going to be too much water in that area, we can control this in order to put more or less water down these pipes. Okay, so the water collects in the sink drain, it goes down here, goes past the pivot rod all the way up here. And then we also have a shut-off valve here, looking something like that.
That's a great looking rod.
Thank you so much, Haley. And this is going to allow us to turn off, not if we want the water to stop flowing out, but actually if we want the water to shut off going up. But I know what you're thinking. Where's the water going? Like, the water's going out, but how do we get the water up? We actually have some flexible tubes that go from here, so from the shut-off valve, all the way up here. And these tubes are going to control our water up. So if there was a problem with the water, and say we can't shut it off from the main kind of knobs here, what we could do is we could actually shut off the water from the shut-off valve, and then the water will stop flowing up so that we can fix any sort of leak. So this is kind of a quick little diagram of a plumbing of a kitchen sink. And, you know, I thought that was pretty good. And I don't think that I can, you know, explain that any better, but I'm looking at Haley, and it looks like she has kind of a cool little plumbing thing going on there. What do you have, Haley?
I do, and you actually inspired me with your story of going to plumbing school, and you've just really inspired me. So I actually went ahead and created my own piping system, and I'll bring it out to the front here. Okay.
Wow. That's pretty nice. Better than anything I created.
Yes, so this is the pipe that I created, and basically I wanted to see if water would flow from our top end all the way up here to the bottom end. So I'm going to get some water and a couple supplies here to do so. Alright. So I've got a bowl to catch my water. I have a funnel going in right here.
Do you need my assistance?
Honestly, I think I might be A-okay,
wow.
but stay on standby in
She's
case.
a professional plumber.
Because I didn't go to plumbing school, and I used duct tape to put these together.
Oh, nice.
So if all of the duct tape comes apart, we will have a big watery mess. But
Okay.
I'm confident that my duct taping skills are really great. So I'm going to pour some water into here and see if it comes out the bottom, and we'll see. You'll have to tell me if it's coming out. Oh! We got some leaks. But we did actually have water come out the bottom.
Wow, you did it.
Very good,
you.
Haley.
Thank you.
So that's pretty cool. So you use some PVC pipes for there, but that's kind of the same idea as plumbing, right? Like, I mean, I'm sure they don't use duct tape, but...
I'm sure you are the expert. You would know if they use duct tape or not.
No, we don't use duct tape. But that was a pretty cool little demonstration about how we're able to get water through those pipes, and of course allow us to drink it and bathe ourselves and wash our hands and all that kind of good stuff. Wash your hair, 'cause that's important. So that's pretty cool. But Kobe, I also see that you have something going on there. What do you have?
Yes, so not us. We also we use filters and to get clean water, but fish also need clean water as well. So here I have a DIY fish tank, and I'm going to make a filter along with you all. And fish, of course, have their own waste. They do some little doo-doos and poops and all that, and that affects the ecosystem, or the ecosystem of the fish tank. So the chemical composition might get a little acidic, and we have to make sure that our filter balances out and catches all those maybe like remaining fish food and all that, to make sure that they get the cleanest water they can get. And this filter needs 3 layers. The first one is the biological layer, or the filter, and that allows all the good bacteria to live there and kind of eat away the pathogens of the fish tank. And in order to represent that, I'm going to use straws as my biological filter. So I'm going to put that in my DIY fish tank filter right here. Here are the straws, and this is the biological layer. And I made some slits in this water bottle as the filter so that air can go through it when I insert my air pump into this filter and then into my fish tank. So that's number one. We got our biological filter. The next one is the mechanical filter. And this one I'm going to represent as sponges. And what the mechanical filters does is pretty much it kind of acts like the strain that Haley used for her alum spice filtration. It catches all the big particles in the water, so like remaining fish food or big clumps of waste, of fish waste. So I'm going to put that in there to represent the mechanical filters. Alright, and the last one is the chemical filter. And to represent the chemical filter, I'm going to use my best friend, activated carbon as well. And what happens here is that there are many ions that are produced because of fish waste. And we want to make sure that the activated carbon absorbs all the dangerous ions and chemicals in the fish tank so that we get the cleanest water possible. So I'm going to sprinkle that on top to represent our chemical filter. Once we have our filter done, we have our 3 layers. And I'm going to insert my air pump in my filter here. Insert it into my fish tank. Ooh, and plug my air pump in.
Oh, wow. That looks really cool, Covey.
Yes, I can have my own fish.
And I'm not sure if everyone at home can hear it, but it's going.
It's going. Wow, I need a longer tube. So what is happening here? It's like spilling, but what's happening here is that water is going through the filter, and then because the added air into the water makes it a lot more dense, it's going to sink into the bottom of the tank. And the bottom of the tank has the dirty water, and then it's going to rise through the filter through the 3 layers, so the biological layer, the mechanical layer, and the chemical layer, to filter out all the pathogens and dangerous chemicals, and it comes out and reuses that again. So pretty much the filters catches all the bad stuff and then releases all the good water and good air for the fish. And that is how this fish tank works. And here's another cool graphic of how this fish tank works as well. So this shows the cycle of the air and the pump as well. So as you can see at the very, very left side of the side view, the water is going up through the filter and coming out again. And it's kind of like a huge cycle going on with that filter. Yeah, so fish need good water as well.
That is pretty neat. Thank you for showing us that, Covey. Now I know how to better protect my fish. It's always a good thing to know. So, if you have any questions at all, any comments or suggestions you would like to give to us, make sure you are texting us at 306-570-1013. You can also reach us on social media at Eyes Youth under YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. And if you are using Twitter, make sure you are using that hashtag CouchPotatoLab to get a hold of us. So we do have one question here, and I was also wondering this. So the Hayes brothers are asking, how does algae form? Haley, do you know how algae forms?
I do. So algae is a naturally occurring plant in water. It grows all the time, but what you might be thinking of is when there's too much algae in the water. So algae grows from an excess of 2 different chemicals, phosphorus and nitrogen. When there is too much phosphorus and nitrogen in the water, then algae starts to grow and grow and grow and grow. And so we get that excess amount of algae in our water, which turns it very green. So sometimes you might remember that Regina Beach might close, or some other lakes at your cabin might close because there's too much algae in the water. And algae becomes a problem when there's too much of it, because it actually kills other plants from growing. Imagine if only evergreen trees were growing super tall, and they were blocking the sunlight from all the other plants and everything else that is growing. Well, then that would become a problem because evergreen trees would become that dominant living thing in that area. So that same thing happens with the algae, where it is growing and it is becoming so excessive that it is killing all the other plants. And so many fish and other organisms need every single plant in the lake in order to survive and keep growing and reproducing. So it is important that we want to keep our algae levels at an equal balance with everything else. Does that answer the question, Katie?
Yes, I think it does. Hopefully it does for Hayes Brothers as well. Okay, so we're kind of nearing the end of our show, and you still really haven't answered my question. How am I going to make sure that my hair is curly enough and that I have the clean enough water to wash my hair? So let's maybe take a look quickly back at our filtration systems. Covey, how is your filtration system doing? But I don't actually want to know how yours is doing. I want to know how Haley's is doing
All right,
first.
Thank you. So mine has been sitting here for well over 5 minutes. I can see the flock is growing and it's becoming ready to go through my filter. So I'm going to get ready with my filter. So again, that's just a strainer, a coffee filter, and some gravel. And I'm going to take this lid off here. And what is going to happen is I'm going to pour this through, and if we're lucky, we might... Oh, this smells delicious. We might even be able to see some of that flock left over on the top, but we'll see. It depends how well behaved our alum salt is today. I'm just going to pour through it, and we'll see. It's very brown water here, and hopefully it comes out a little bit cleaner on the bottom. All right.
Oh.
Wow. Oh my God.
Interesting.
I'm just going to give it a moment. Maybe we can jump to Covey while this is kind of going through here.
All right. Well, let's take a look at my filtered water. As you can see, like, my dirty water was similar to Haley's color, pretty dark. And now, oh no. Oh, it just got dirty. But it was cleaner, but as some sand just got to it, and it kind of like licked a little. But it's clear.
You know what? That actually looks really good to me, because I remember when you put the water in, it was initially like super brown. So I think that's looking pretty good, Covey.
Yeah, I think that activated charcoal really did the trick. And I really wanted to show off my water ecosystem because it was so great, and I caught them all. So here are some pictures of the Pondemon cards, and shout out to Kavina, who actually made these Pondemon cards from last year. So here is a picture of a Volvox. So this is the first microorganism that I got, and it's really cool. The next one that Haley got was the Chlamydomonas with the flagella. Oh, maybe I want that one. I don't remember. Next one is our favorite, the tardigrade. We can jump back to this. It's pretty.
Okay. That sounds cool.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks for showing us, Covey. And yeah, you know what? Your filter system looks great. Haley, how's yours doing?
Well, mine is doing really well, and we have that direct comparison between this super dirty water right here and what is coming out as quite clear water here. And although you wouldn't want to drink this water, you can still wash your hair with it. And we can even see it's dripping down, and it'll continue to drip, I'm sure, well into tomorrow.
Well, you know what? You guys completely blew me away. That is way cleaner than I thought you would got. I thought that you were just mixing chemicals together and doing weird filtration stuff, but I appreciate that. And I am feeling much better for my trip now, and I'll make sure to use those different filtration systems in order to clean my hair. So thanks for showing me that. You two are wonderful scientists, just like many other scientists here in the world, including one named Alice Hamilton, and she's actually going to be our STEM Spotlight that we are going to take a look at right now.
On today's STEM Spotlight, we want you to meet Alice Hamilton. Alice Hamilton was one of the first female epidemiologists known for the creation of occupational epidemiology. Occupational epidemiology is the study of health conditions of workers in industry, hospitals, and engineering. Her work focuses on how potential work conditions such as radiation, exposure to chemicals, noise, and other factors may affect workers. Great work, Alice Hamilton.
Wonderful. All right. So thank you, Alice, for everything that you have done. And now it is time for one of our favorite segments of the show, Ask Our Scientists. Awesome. Okay, so our first question is, what is glacier water? Interesting question. Kovi, do you know what glacier water is?
Yes, glacier water is really, really old water that came probably maybe formed like 17,000 years ago. And it has a really low mineral content, so it might taste similar to rainwater. Yeah, comes from glaciers.
Interesting. So, Haley, does water have any good bacteria or minerals in it?
Well, of course, the water that comes out of our tap actually has added minerals in it to make us healthier. So some examples of those minerals might be calcium, which helps with our bones, potassium, which you find in bananas, and even magnesium. So those are just a few of the minerals that we can find in our tap water, and sometimes they even put in fluoride into tap water to help with your teeth.
That's good to know. I didn't know that. Okay, well, all these questions have got me thinking back to a previous episode. And so, is pond water a homogeneous or a heterogeneous mixture? Good question, Kovi.
I think pond water, it depends on the pond water, to be honest. So if it's a homogeneous mixture, that means that there are no floaties or nothing that is floating around in the pond water. If it's heterogeneous, if it's that kind of mixture, that means there are floaties around. For example, like iced tea, right? If you have water and you add the iced tea mixture, that would be like a heterogeneous mixture. Yeah.
Sweet, interesting. Okay. So we also have another question. What is your favorite eyes activity ever? That's a good question. Let's start with Haley.
My favorite eyes activity ever. I know it seems pretty simple, but I was so shocked when we got it going. I was actually on the show with Katie for this one, and we brought in a seesaw. That was for the wheels, levers, and axles. Axles, wheels, levers? Something like that. It was for that episode. And I actually got to ride on the seesaw in front of everyone here, and it was fabulous. I just love seesaws so much, and it's a great time.
Yeah, I would have to say my favorite eyes activity is called Uncracked, and we got to be little mini surgeons where we got to go and put a chicken wing bone back together and then sew the person back up. Don't worry, it wasn't an actual person, it was rice in a balloon, but still it was a super fun activity because medical science is super fun. Colby, what was your favorite eyes activity?
My favorite eyes activity has to be Uncracked as well. So this was developed by Katie, I think about 3 or 4 years on those balloons, so it's a great time.
It's true. I can never get the smell of bleach out of my nose. Now I just constantly smell bleach because I had to bleach all those chicken wing bones. Yeah, so one last question here we have. Why is it important that we drink water, and of course the clean water? Which do we think, Kovi?
Yes, water is very important to balancing our body fluids in our body. So our body is made out of like 60% of water, and water is very important for like creating saliva, digestion, and ion balance, because in our bodies sometimes it might get a lot of salts and ions in there, and we might remove all of that, and it's important to remove all these pathogens that might be in our body as well. So water is very important for having us to survive and nourish our brain as well.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm finally feeling ready for my trip, and I tricked you guys a little bit. I'm not gone for a very long time. I'm going to be back on Monday.
Oh my goodness, Katie. Well, I can't wait to see you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm going to miss you guys too much at the Couch Potato Lab, and so it'll be a quick trip, but I'll be back here on Monday. Speaking of which, you should be downloading that lab manual for Monday's episode, so you can find that at bit.ly/couchpotatolab, so you can get ready for that episode, and make sure that you can reach us on our social medias or our phone number, and you can text us any other questions that you have. But for right now, we have had a really wonderful show. I want to thank my 2 wonderful scientists for being on here with me, and I want to thank everybody at home for watching, and of course, all of our supporters and our sponsors that make this all possible. Thanks for the wonderful show, and have a wonderful weekend, everybody. We will see you back here on Monday.
Bye!
Bye!